Alright, back out here in the carport garage today. I can't believe it. Come a huge storm last night. And I had set, and so you can still see the wet spot. I set my laptop on top of the car. I forgot to take it in. So it poured the rain on my laptop. But I dried it off already, but it really didn't get much water in here because it was closed. So hopefully that didn't hurt anything. And then from leaning on the header yesterday, actually not that sore, but footwork. Don't lean on headers. I'm just being stupid lately. I don't know. But anyway, I think since it rained, there's a bunch of water still standing out there. I was going to mess with that. The fuel pump quit working on that one, as I mentioned in my last video. I took the sending unit, the wires, there's big wires that go to the sending unit, and then it goes through this yellow thing, and then it comes out prongs on the bottom. And coming out the bottom, they're really small wires, especially the ground wire. And the ground wire had a little short in it, which could have been my problem with everything all along. I don't know. But anyway, I popped that off, and I ran bigger wires straight to the pump, and then a smaller ground and power wire for the sending unit. And it was working fine, and I was tuning on it yesterday. Finally got the tune right for them 142 pound snake injectors, and I was going to go take it for a drive and test it out. Then I thought I'd mess with this one, so I messed with this one because the pump came back. And then got all that on. I made the video. I just posted the last video on that. So I was setting the carburetor on this one with it running in here, and it was choking me out. So I was going to move this one out there so I could mess with the carburetor a little bit more. I go to start that one, and the fuel pump's not working again. Why, I have no idea. So I'm going to have to figure that out. And hopefully my laptop isn't dead. I'll let it dry out a little bit. I'm going to set it up here by the fan. But anyway, I think on the Trans Am here, I think I'll just work in here today. I'm on the 12AN fitting. I bought a good 12AN fitting. We were just buying the eBay ones, but that one's leaking back there. We probably tightened it up too tight because you have to use a big crescent wrench on that. I don't have the AN wrenches, but I think we probably tighten it up because it's too tight because it's leaking in the back part of where it bolts. Yeah, back of the bolt part. But so I'm waiting on that, but I had to, when I took the pump out, we had the lines zip tied up around the axle, so I had to cut those. So I have to re-zip tie those. I need to tighten the fuel pump all the way up. And then coming forward, I need to tap this out a little bit more. We took one of those fittings off and I took one of those fittings off and drilled and tapped it, but I didn't tap it deep enough, so I need to, which this was leaking when I was first messing with the car, but then it just quit leaking. But anyway, I'm going to tap that deeper. And then I'm going to try to tighten that full drain hose below the turbo. Man, it's a pain getting in there. And then I'm going to see where the float level's at. And I'm going to put the float level, which sucks because if this one's off. When Chris rebuilt the carburetor, he eyeballed it pretty good on the floats. But I'm going to see where I wish you could see through these. Makes it a lot easier. You don't have to take them out. But I may have to take the carb head off. But I'm going to set those, and I'm going to probably start the car once I get all the leaks fixed. And put I'm going to lock the distributor out at 30 degrees. And then I need to wire loom all these wires back. And put that grommet back in there. But yeah, that's the plan for today. Alright, see that AN fittings leaking right behind the bolt. It's not leaking enough to do anything. Like, you won't even see a drip on the ground. It'll drop every hour. and it dries before another drop falls. But check this out. Oh yeah, that one's doing the same thing. It ain't bad, but I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna change those. But I got them all zip tied out of the way of everything. That one loops around, and it won't go any higher off the tank than right there, so to keep it from rubbing there on the loose spring. Now I know I didn't over tighten that one because it's hard to tighten it up on that filter, but I'm gonna try to tighten it up a little bit more. See what that does. So you need to have to sit here forever just to see if it's leaking. It leaks really slow. The back one does the same thing. But let me tighten up these bolts. Just gonna put some vice grips on them and then tighten them from the top. That fitting right there on front of the pump, it was leaking really, really, really bad. Before I cleaned it up and put it back on there after we got the pump back, and it's not leaking at all now. That was one I was worried about. And I'd already actually ordered another fitting for that one, so I didn't even need to order that. I needed to order another 12, I guess. These 12s, they ain't working that good. Both of them leak right behind the nut. Yeah. See, that one was leaking really bad before I took the pump out. It ain't leaking at all now. It must, sometimes those mating surfaces get something on them and they'll leak, and if you clean it off and put it back on, maybe that's what happened. I don't know. It's not leaking now, that's the main thing. Alright. Pump's all bolted back in. Good stuff. Alright, car's back down on the ground. I ran the pump some. Everything looks good, no leaks. Besides them small leaks. I'm going to replace those fittings, but for now, that'll be alright. It's not leaking that bad. I do have a 112A in on order. It's coming in the mail from Shipbox Supply. And then I guess I'll have to order another one. And I ordered another 10A in fitting, but that's okay because we're about to do my car with that surge tank over there. So that's fine. Alright, let's jack the front of it up and figure out a way to tighten up that oil drain, because the oil drain's leaking. And ain't easy getting in there, but we'll see what we can do. But if it's leaking oil, it's getting oil. I believe I got the turbo drain tightened. It was loose. So what I did was I put this up on the fitting, and then I took that wrench and turned it. And then I could only get this in so far, and I'd have to put this smaller one in, turn it a little more, and then go back to this. But it's pretty tight now, so we'll see if it leaks. Well, upon further inspection, it wasn't leaking from there. It's actually leaking from this one. I didn't tighten it all the way up. But now they're all tight. Let's run the pump for a little bit and see if it leaks again. And I usually get a new blue rag, because this shows leaks really good. But I got to dry it all up first. Well, I ran the pump a little bit longer and it did leak a little there. I mean, just barely. But I tapped it more. You can see it goes in further now. But this was leaking, the one that went over here to the carburetor. And I found this thing went a little crooked, like that. I could tell as soon as I took it off because this was crooked. So trying to get this on a little bit straighter. Probably gonna have to cut that back just a little bit because I can't get it on there, back on there now. I stole one off of one of the other. It's coming down now. Stormed hard last night too. I think I mentioned that earlier. So you want to make sure that white part of the tubing. So on these, you make sure to put this on first. You put a piece of tape here where you want to cut it, and then cut in the middle of the tape. Put this piece on first. Then you peel this back the best you can. It'll poke the crap out of you. I usually use the edge of this ferrule piece to kind of wedge it back. Then you slide this ferrule piece in and make sure to get that white piece all the way up on the ledge, all the way around. That was the mistake I made on this one. Then what I usually do is I take a piece of wood and beat on it and make sure you're nice and straight. And then I lube this piece up. And if you ever, like Chris's 12AN ones, they weren't beveled. See how that one's beveled? If they're beveled, they go in a lot better. On his 12AN ones, I used a file and put a bevel in there because it didn't have a bevel and it almost made them impossible to put on. But I lube this up real good with just some Vaseline usually. And then you slide it in there all the way till it seats. All the way right here. And you bring the nut down and tighten them together. And when you beat this down in there, be careful, don't hit real hard, because if you do, that plastic, it'll smush and crimp. It'll crimp in on itself. Same thing when you're putting this in, it don't go in easy. You got to twist and turn, lube that up, and makes, ow, see, that's metal poking me. Lube that up and just grab it right here and then grab right there with your other hand and twist and push and twist. Don't go crazy pushing, because like I said, if you push too hard, you'll make this plastic piece collapse on itself. There we go. Went all the way down together. Then you gotta push this over this till you get to the threads and then tighten them up. And they ain't easy to tighten up. You can have a little gap in here. I try to tighten them all the way together, but they say you can have a little gap right here. And it ain't easy to tighten them up. I mean, I usually use 2 Allen wrenches, and I found if you put them close enough that you can squeeze them together, that'll give you your best bet. But yeah, let's go ahead and put this back together. Alright, that's about as high as I can get it. You can see some daylight through there. That'd be just fine. Oh, another thing. Lube your male threads. Lube your male threads on everything. Alright, I believe I got all the licks fixed. I let it run for a little while. I didn't see no oil come out. And we'll definitely let it run a little bit longer and check that. But I set the timing to 30 degrees. And that's where I'm going to leave it, and that way, because this small distributor, if you start, the box pulls the timing for the boost, but this small distributor, if you pull too much timing, it'll jump terminals where it's so small, the cap's so small. But so we'll go ahead and start at 30 and then about 5 pounds of boost, then which I made a video on that. But yeah, I would load the tune into the box there, but I got my laptop wet. I want to let that dry out a couple of days, so really nothing else I can do to this one. But maybe wire loom some wires. But I'm gonna go play in the rain, I guess. Try to figure out why the fuel pump's not working on that one. That's gonna conclude this video. Y'all have a good one.